Thank you very much for joining us on our new webinar. Today, we will be sharing with you a case study, and we will let you know how we help Facilitabots, one of our customers, and how StackZone helped them in order to improve their security to get a new customer. Facilitabots is a SaaS company that has adopted the cloud as their environment, and they are providing to their customers the capability of communicating with them through chatbots in WhatsApp. Facilitabots wanted to have a new customer in a new industry vertical. In this case, it was a financial company. As you know, every financial company requests every provider to a set of security on their application and on their cloud infrastructure in order to ensure they will be compliant with their standards. And in addition to that, that they will be secured and all the communications will be correctly protected. So Facilitabot needed to show this new customer what they were doing in their infrastructure and ensure these actions are aligned with what the customer need or with the standard the financial company was following. So in this case, they connected to us in order to find out how to improve their infrastructure security and how to do it fast because they didn't have enough time and experience in order to do it um, in the time that they were required. So what they did was to implement StackZone in order to get all these improvements through automation, get the documentation, and share this with their customers in order to be able to start working with them as soon as possible. So let's see which was the journey Facilitabots did in order to have all these improvements. The first thing they did in order to start improving their infrastructure is to learn how they were performing and which were the areas they needed to improve, and to identify or define what did they need to do in order to correct all this. The best way of correcting this and ensuring that these things are done correctly is to do it based on cloud best practices. What are best practices? Are suggestions of AWS um, to implement to your cloud in order to improve your security, your resiliency, your cost optimization, performance, operations, and sustainability. These are the six pillars the Were Architected framework, the AWS Were Architected framework covers and checks in order to let us know what should be done on the cloud in order to get the best from the cloud at the right price. So the first thing we need to do and what Facilitabot did was to understand, to analyze where they were, which were the opportunities. In order to do so, we did a Were Architected review. A Were Architected review is an official instance from AWS that has a length of 2 hours and it's done by a certified solution architect. In this way, they will be able, or the customer is able to identify which are the areas of opportunities they need to work and how to work them out in order to improve their infrastructure. We'll go in details in just a minute, but take into account that this took only 2 hours. Then, in order to solve these findings, Facilitabot decided to adopt StackZone. By implementing StackZone or by adopting StackZone, Facilitabot remediates and solve all the findings, not all the findings, but a huge percentage of the findings that were identified in the Were Architected review through automation. And this was done with just 2 hours of human intervention. So we configured Staction in just 2 hours, and then the automation start implementing everything on the customer infrastructure. After that time, what we did is to update the where architected review, create a new milestone. This took only 30 minutes, and there was no need for the customer to participate. It was done by our solutions architect in order for them to have two things. The first one, and the most important one, to get the evidence and a document showing what they have done and what they have improved in order to be aligned with the customer's needs. And on the other hand, to get a benefit that we will speak about it in a few moments. So let's go to the first step, the well architected review, and what we did with Facilitabots in this specific step. I'm sorry. Uh, what is the well architected review? As I mentioned, it's a review, it's an official stage of AWS where we will be checking how the customer is managing their cloud infrastructure. And the five pillars, the five verticals that we will be analyzing will be the operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. As you can see, we will not only be working on one aspect of the cloud, but we will be working on all of them. Despite that Facilitabots at that time only needed to improve their security, we proposed them to work not only on security, but on the other pillars in order to ensure that they are improving their whole experience on the cloud. What is more, to ensure them that they won't be spending more than they should and that their performance won't be affected with the implementation of security improvements or with the changes they needed to do. So, how is this instance? We have an online tool in order to do this review, and it's just clicking with the customer and checking with the customer during a session how they are working. As you can see, we have the different pillars right here on the tool, and we have different questions. Each pillar has its questions. Some of them has 10 questions, other ones has 11 or 13 questions, but all the questions are related to a specific area that needs to be worked in order to get the best out of that specific pillar. So the 10 questions about security will ensure that this customer is protecting their infrastructure against any issue that may happen, of that they are as protected as possible. The answers are multiple choice answers. These answers not only talks about what needs to be done or what the customer does or not, but at the same time provides best practices on how this can be done. So by the end of this session, you will get not only the result, not only the number of how many opportunities were found, but at the same time, how to solve them. So, as I mentioned, by the end of the session, after answering all the questions, you will get a result with high risk items and medium risk items. So we will know how many items and which of these items needs to be addressed first. Those are the high risk items, and which of them can be addressed afterwards or in different sessions or projects. That will be the medium risk items. It's really important to keep improving your compliance with where architected in order to continue improving your cloud infrastructure and try to be as aligned as possible to best practices in order to ensure that you are doing the right thing in every single pillar or every single cloud vertical. Um, so what is the documentation that backups all this? Apart from having this online tool, we will get a PDF report where we will have all the information about every single question and how it was answered during the Web Architecture review session. With this report, the customer gets not only a detailed report on how they are performing or how compliant they are versus the well architected framework, but they will have best practices and links on how to solve this manually for every single question, every single item that was identified as non-compliance. So, can this be solved manually? Can it be solved with, I don't know, a solution architect consultancy project? Or can it be solved internally with our team? Definitely yes. But the disadvantage is that this project usually takes really long, at least 4 to 8 not months, sorry, weeks, and costs a lot of money. Usually, a remediation plan implementation costs around 5,000 to $8,000 in order to implement and being able to remediate around 50 to 60% of the high risk items identified on this report. So, how can we do that in a faster way, a simple way, and a cheaper way? The answer is doing it through automation. And here is where StackZone comes to the table. Again, remember, let's go back 1 minute. We took 2 hours in order to make the whole instance of the review, the Web Architecture review, with a certified solution architect. And we have obtained the initial document to see where we are at the very beginning. And now we want to remediate those high risk items, those items that have been identified that needs to be solved right away. But we not only want to do it in security, we want to do it all across the well architected framework, all across the analysis, taking care of security, taking care of resiliency, taking care of cost optimization, etc. So the best way of doing it and the fastest way of doing it is by implementing an automated cloud management platform. And here is where StackZone comes to the table. StackZone can solve in just 2 hours of configuration around 43% or at least 43% of high risk items identified on the well architected review. And after implementing StackZone, because every company always are doing good things or things in the right way, and they are already implementing some of the best practices, our customers gets a compliance of around 60 and 70% or above of the whole well architected framework. What is more, when talking about security, after implementing StackZone, our customers always hits a performance or a compliance within versus the well architected framework of above 70%. What do this means? That you are compliant or you are doing at least 70% of the best practices suggested by AWS. In the case of Facilitabots and the case study we are talking about today, we choose to use the um, financial blueprint. What is a blueprint? We spoke about this on our previous webinar, but basically, a blueprint is a set of configurations of taxons that um, focus on a specific vertical. In this case, even though Facilitabots is a SaaS, we choose the financial one because what they were looking for is to improve their security and align with the financial vertical needs. So they needed to implement that specific blueprint and that specific configuration set in order to ensure they will get what they needed. So we implemented a different set of security tools that includes the how to manage their access, that includes more than 100 config rules with its the remediation rules, monitoring tools in order to ensure that we are monitoring security and that we are automatically reacting to specific issues, security issues, not only to let them know what is going on, but to ensure them that they will be protected through automation. And at the same time, monitoring and setting specific wireless and specific rules to ensure they will remain in compliance and that all the infrastructure they will be deploying on their AWS workload will be in compliance with the configuration we have defined and that is aligned with their customer needs in this case. And last but not least, I would say, something really important, we work on the cost optimization too, in order to ensure that they are not spending more than they should in order to get all these benefits out of the cloud and in order to do things again in the best way, but spending what they need to spend. So let's look how we did this. As I mentioned, the onboarding process takes only 2 hours of configuration. And here you can see on the screen how we have the different blueprints. And in this case, we choose the one about financial. So the onboarding is really fast and it's really easy to do. They are just simple steps that will be guiding you and will be asking you very basic information such as the primary account number, the organization identificator, or your company's information in order to be able to set up everything on your infrastructure, on your AWS workload, and to start deploying everything through automation. So after these 2 hours of configuration, the automation start working, and it takes from 1 hour to 6 hours. It depends on how many things you activated to be deployed and for you to have everything set up. So let's see how it looks. Give me just 1 minute. I will be sharing my screen. There we go. And we can see the console and how is it. And why is this important? Because after the onboarding, this is what we will be seeing. Hold on, that the chat is myself saying hello to me. So after the onboarding, what we will have um, uh, what we will have access to in order to keep improving our services or to be able to adapt ourselves to new situations or new requirements is this simple console. So we have implemented, for example, in this case, the financial services. Of course, this is not Facilitabots account or StackZone. This is a demo account, but it will work to show you how it works. So we have implemented the financial blueprint, the basic configuration. But now we want to add a new service or we want to add a new control to our infrastructure because let's say we started using RDS and previously our databases were in EC2. So what we do is we get into the console, we get into our panel, our provisioning panel, and we go to the config rules in order to activate the rules we would like to implement now. This will take just 1 minute. There we go. So here we choose the service we would like to add the config rule. Let's say RDS, as we mentioned. And let's say we want to activate the check for RDS encryption. So we just click in the bottom right here in the toggle right here in order to activate it. Let's say we want to check that the RDS doesn't have public access. We do exactly the same thing. Just clicking in the toggle, we will be able to activate any config rule in order to monitor if that resource is deployed with the configuration we have defined or we want it to have. But let's say we want to move forward and we don't only want to ensure we are monitoring that resource, but we want to ensure that that resource, sorry for that, is in compliance. So what we have in order to do so are the remediation rules or the auto-hailing rules. What we can do is, for example, we have the config rule that is checking that all the RDS are deployed in multi-A seat. But we want to ensure that all of them are. So what we will do is we will activate the auto remediation rule, and from now on, automatically all the RDS that will be deployed will be in multi-A seat, deployed in multi-A seat. Same thing with public access disabled. If an RDS is deployed with public access enabled, the automation will identify that and it will change it to disable automatically with the auto remediation rule. So as you can see, we have hundreds of services in order to improve our cloud environment. And we have just talked about security, but as you can see here, we have a config rule to ensure that every RDS is included in a backup plan with AWS Backup. Same thing for EC2s or for EBS. So we will be working in resiliency too. Remember that resiliency is part of the security. If something happens, we need to be prepared in order to recover ourselves from a disaster or from a security issue. So we need to be resilient. We need to have our backup plan in order to be able to recover. And we are working on the cost optimization too. Sorry for that. Um, Not only we are monitoring through CloudWatch alarms that we can see them right here, our performance and how our infrastructure is working related to, for example, cost and security. We have an alarm for large EC2 instance. When they are launched, we got an alarm, an alert on our email. We have the AWS budgets that will send us an alarm when the budget is at 50% or hits 50%, 80%, and when it exceeds 100%. But we have some automations that help us simply improve our cost. For example, changing GP2 volumes, EBS volumes, to GP3. And what we are getting from here is, by implementing this, is a 20% reduction on the cost because GP3 are cheaper, 20% cheaper, and at the same time, an improvement on performance because they perform better than GP2 volumes. Again, by just tagging the volume, and we are working here in cost and we are working on performance too. EBS Snapshot Optimizer, Autospotty will EBS Snapshot Optimizer will help you optimize the cost of the snapshot storage. Autospotty will help you optimizing the cost of auto scaling groups, and so on. We have hundreds of services that can be activated in order to ensure you are getting the best from the cloud at the right cost. But let's go back to our um, to our case study, and let me check if I can do it in a simple way. Hold on a second, and there we go. Okay, there we go. We are back on the presentation. So after implementing StackZone and after adjusting and personalizing StackZone configuration to Facilitabot needs, what we can do we needed to do is to gather the evidence and gather the documentation for them to be able to present this to their customers. So this has two very important this is a very important item because not only they needed this to show it to the customer, but they needed a documentation or a document to know what they have implemented and what they needed to keep working on. So what we did is to create a milestone on the well architected tool uh, that reflected which were the changes and the improvements we have done on the infrastructure. So with this document, we will be able to know which are the items that were solved and which are those that needs to keep being working on a second stage. This takes just 30 minutes and there is no need for the customer to be part of it because with the StackZone configuration and what we knowing what StackZone has implemented through automation to the customer infrastructure, we know which are the items that have been solved. So we can audit that and update the milestone, the AWS where architected tool to create a new milestone. That is one benefit, having a document saying what we have done and how this has helped to improve our workload. But the other benefit, and it's not a minor benefit, is that we can access to the well architected remediation program. This allowed Facilitabots, in this case, to get $5,000 in AWS infrastructure credits to be implemented on their account. So they improve their security, they improve their workload, they did it fast, they did it simple, and they got $5,000 of AWS infrastructure credits. That sounds great. But I'm going too fast, and I'm kind of doing some spoiler about the next slide. I'm so sorry. So what we have achieved with Facilitabat so far, as I mentioned, they were able to implement the changes their customer requested them in order to improve their security. They have improved their cloud infrastructure and how they manage it, not only when talking about security, but when talking about cost optimization, resiliency, performance, etc. They achieve at that point 43.23% of AWS Web Architected Framework compliance. What do this mean? At the very beginning, as you can see on this chart, on this graphic, I'm sorry, they were around 17%. That was the first report we did when checking how many items they were compliant versus the Web Architected Framework. After the implementation, they hit 44%. So they improved from 17 to 44%. In just, we did the math a couple of minutes ago. So it was 2 hours for the were architected, 2 hours for the configuration, and 30 minutes for creating the new milestone. We are talking about 4 hours and a half. In terms of working days, it was 2 working days because again, we need to schedule with the customer when we will be meeting in order to implement these changes. We need the automation to work for at least 1 to 6 hours. So in just 2 working days, they were able to move from 17 to 44%. And you will say, hey, Gaston, what about the last bar, the one that is above 60%? And you mentioned that Facilitabots right now has improved and is really aligned with the Web Architected Framework. Yes. And that's because by remaining in the program for right now is almost a year and a half, Facilitabot has keep improving their alignment with the best practices and all the ways they are working in their security, their cost optimization, their performance optimization, and their operational excellence and sustainability. They have keep improving best practices through automation and by implementing StackZone's updates. And now they have achieved a 61.54% of compliance with the well-architected framework. What is more, their security compliance, I mean, the percentage of the best practices implemented talking about the security pillar is above 80%. So this customer is accomplishing 8 or at least 8 out of 10 best practices, security best practices suggested by AWS. Their infrastructure is really secure. Their infrastructure is not only achieving the expectation or the needs their customer needed, but they are more secure than and they had all the evidence in order to show the customer that they have done all this improvement and what they have done in order to secure all their infrastructure. So that being said, by the end of the day, what happened? They won that contract. They were able to have that new customer and start offering this service to a financial company. That's great. It sounds really great, and it was done really fast. Okay, let's move to the last slide because so far I have shown you what we have done for the customer. So far I have shown you what did we implement with Facilitabots. But let's see what do they think about it. What's their opinion of all this process? There we go. So we have two people that were really close with us and were the ones that work at the very that look for us at the very beginning and the people we speak with. We have Andres Restrepo here, director of technology, and Juan Jose Sanchez, CEO from Latin America Facilitabots. Both of them were really engaged in order to be able to um, um, improve their infrastructure. And by the end of the process, we asked them to give us just a couple of lines saying what they think about the process or how they were feeling about all this process. And what they mentioned were Andres said, relying on an automated, secure, and self healing environment is everyone's dream. Our team now focus on what's important, our customers. Take into account that the leader of the tech team at Facilitabots now is taking care of the customers. They are taking care of the customer experience. For a SaaS company, that is crucial. It's a must have because by the end of the day, their users, their customers, their clients are the ones that will drive their business. And Juan Jose said, having a cloud management platform is really strategic because it not only helps you reduce cost, but also improves your security through automation. And that means that we can focus on what is more important for us, improving our services. Again, the focus is the customer, the focus is the client, the focus is to get the best out of the cloud at the right cost in order to be able to improve the service you are giving to your customer. And that's what we will be doing for every single of our customers. not only for Facilitabots. We will have available the whole document with the technical deployment we did and the technical details on how we work with Facilitabots. We can share this document with you. You can find that document or just contact us and we will be sharing that document with you so you can learn in deep how this case study was with Facilitabots. Or just call us, ask us for a meeting, and we will be more than glad to show you how we can help you focus on your customers, focus on your business, rather than focusing on how secure, how cost efficient, how performance optimized is my cloud. Let us do it simple for you. Let us help us to improve your cloud infrastructure. This is all for today. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Our next webinar.